Hi everyone, I am Charu and I am super excited to share this industry connect with you all. And today we have Utkarsh with us. Utkarsh, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Sharu, and thanks a lot for inviting me to this community event. And I've been following Seekamentor for quite some time, and I thought this is a great platform for exchanging information with aspiring PMs and with the rest of the PM community. About myself, I'm Utkarsh Arora. I am currently working as a senior director and head of product at Times Internet Group, currently looking after multiple news brands, including the Economic Times, Times of India. During over the last 10 years, I have worked in product management across multiple B2C and B2B organizations, including Make My Trip, where I was working in more of a growth-oriented product management role. I worked as a data scientist building data products at Group M Media, and thereafter I worked with a venture-funded startup called Rivigo, that is currently sold out to Mahindra. But at that time, it was a rage there at that time, and I worked there as one of the founding PMs. And currently, from there on, they have been working with the Times Internet Group, focusing on a wide array of product work, including launching their digital subscriptions program that has been scaled at least 10x over the last 2.5 years. And I've built multiple things, whether it's subscription products, platform products. Currently, I'm focused on centralized data platforms for the Times Group. So that's pretty much about me.
Thanks, Utkarsh, for this great introduction. I am really sure that you have worked on some really great products, and our audience would be learning a lot from you. So, why don't we today we discuss about some of the very important aspects that is really crucial for the success of any product. So, be it product market fit or user retention. So, I would like to hear from your side. What do you think? Why is it even important to care about user retention or user churn rate?
Yes. I think it's a very pertinent question that you asked, Charu. A lot of companies, especially when they're being founded by young, enthusiastic entrepreneurs, they think acquiring users is really the mantra that will help them grow. And initially it does, right? When you're really short on users, you barely have 100 users. When you scale it to 1 lakh or a million, you really start seeing growth effects. And VCs push you to be very aggressive towards your acquisition. But once you start reaching a certain scale, if your retention of the users that you've acquired is pretty low, or the entire castle that you have built will start sinking gradually and it'll boom out. You'll not be left with much few years down the line. So as it is important to acquire users, it's also important to acquire the right set of users who would love the product that you've built, and B, build the product more in a way that the users that you've acquired will love coming to it on a daily basis, so that they see value on a continuous basis. So they see the commitments that you've made at the time of acquisition coming to fruition later on as well. If that happens, the users that you have already acquired will stick on for a much longer time. They will continue to stay invested in your product, and you will witness exponential growth. Because beyond a point, your acquisition is going to scale now. If you're acquiring, let's say, a million users a month today, being a very young seed funded startup, maybe 2 years down the line, when you would have amassed a big use case, a big user base, the acquisition rate would be significantly toned down, right? And at that point of time, for you to grow, it will be largely a function of how effective your retention efforts are. And retention, why is it difficult for most companies to think about retention? Because it relies on non-linear effects. Not It does not rely on first order effects. Acquisition can be boosted by first order effects. You spend well on a good campaign, you'll get conversions. Retention is a complex decision making process, right? Whether once I've experienced a product, whether I decide to stay on, is a function of many things coming together, to convince the user to pay you again or to come again, right? So it's not linear, or it is dependent on a lot of second and third order effects. That is why people at times miss out on the fundamentals, and then they later realize this is a problem to be solved. And that is when they rope in the right kind of people to solve for it. Yeah, does
Yes.
that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely, Utkarsh. So, we have understood that it is really important to engage your users with your product, and most importantly, engage the right set of users, right? But Utkarsh, how do we even measure that user retention? What are some of the ways in which we measure whether we are able to entertain our users, we are able to engage the users with our platform, or whether the churn rate is increasing, and what steps we should take to measure that?
All right. Let me do it this way. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, yes, Utkarsh, I can see your
Yeah.
screen.
Right. Okay, even before we talk about retention and how to improve it, I just want to give people a sense of what exactly is retention and what are its various avatars in which we should see it. Each of these definitions that I will be talking about very briefly will have a different ramification for your business teams and product teams, right? So, just to give you, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, Utkarsh,
Yeah,
it is visible.
right. So there are multiple ways in which we could look at churn and retention. One is the revenue collection lens. Because see, at the end of the day, whatever consumer product that you have, or it's even if it's a B2B SaaS product, at the end of the day, people vote with their wallets, right? People vote with their wallets. If they love you, they're gonna pay for you, and that's the ultimate outcome that all businesses work towards. Do we have the money coming or not? At the end of the day, even if you come on a daily basis, does that translate to revenue or not? So this is the most fundamental way in which we should look at retention. Are consumers driving repeat purchases or not? This is revenue retention, right? I'll come to more details later. The second is if you are a subscription based business, let's say you're an Amazon Prime, you're a Netflix, you're a Tinder, or you're, let's say, in the news business these days, most brands are putting up a paywall and asking for a subscription fee to access content, right? So, are your subscribers retaining at the time of renewal or not? Then the third part is what you mentioned very succinctly, which is around engagement, repeat visitation. This is also important because it is a powerful predictor of whether users are consuming a product and deriving value from it. If they are, there's a good chance they would want to renew if given the right price, right? So this is also important, which is repeat visitation, engagement, retention, right? We'll talk how to look at these in a better moment. And then there are more things. For instance, if you're a marketing team and you're concerned about the app downloads and the value that you're getting from each download, because in every download we're spending a good amount of money, whether it's $200 or $2,000 to acquire an app download, right? So what's happening to fresh users who have been acquired? Are they retaining or are they just uninstalling on day zero? How do you improve that retention? This is also an important area that a lot of teams focus on these days. And then you can go down into feature level churn, consumers who have tried a newly launched feature, which is supposed to be, which was launched in a bid to improve certain metric for the company in a big way. Are users sticking to it and coming back again and again? That kind of is if you have strong retention there, that's a proxy that they're deriving value. And there is a genuine need for it over a period of time. It's not a one off attraction that got them here, right? So these are the various ways in which we measure. And of course, we'll come to segments also. Whatever metrics that we are using to visualize retention or churn, we can always segment them further by some of these segments and look at it in a more granular way. That will unveil more insights. So we'll come to this later. Do you have any questions around this?
Sure. Utkarsh, when you are saying that we have a different types of churn and we have a different segments in which we measure the user retention rate and different metrics, I'm not able to understand how is it really divided in segments, and like how is this line between different segments defined, and how do we even, like, why are matrices different in different segments?
Okay, so I'll just break it down. You're trying to ask two questions. how do we think about segmenting a specific type of churn calculation, right? That is
Correct.
one. And what's the second question? Just for my understanding.
Second question is, why are matrices even different for different types of segments? Cannot be
Mhm.
there only one North Star metrics which can be defined or which can be standardized for measuring this user retention across all segments?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I'll answer the second question first. Yes, when we compare retention, and let's say if you're a venture capitalist, right, you're looking to evaluate a new product. Let's say you're a gaming tech product. They will ask you, what's your consumer retention? And when they ask you, they're actually asking for the overall, the blended retention rate that you're looking for. And the second typical thing they will ask for is in terms of revenue. What is the repeat purchase rate and what is the engagement rate, right? The rest of the segments are needed for internal evaluation. Let's say if I'm a marketing person, I'll be more interested in app download and the retention from the app so that I can claim that these are the additional number of daily active users I have been able to add through the downloads, investments made in downloads, so that they can actually calculate to get one user what is the effective money I'm spending, and then reduce that cost per active user creation. At the end of the day, see, at the end of the day, it's about users, adding users, not really the downloads, isn't it? And those users will eventually make a purchase, and that's how you'll make money. So
Correct.
yeah, right. So so the segments will help you. And another use case for segments is one I told you. Different personas have different things to optimize. That's why they want to look at it in a different level of granularity. The second is if you're an analytics person or a product person who is really thinking about what do I need to solve in my retention? Where is it totally gone? Let's say you see some sort of a problem in the overall retention rates. You realize, let's say after 2 months, most of the users are churning, there's barely anything left. And as per the industry benchmarks of the overall retention rates, it should have been much higher. Let's say you realize, come to this realization. Now, this is a fact, it's not an actionable. There is something wrong, but you don't know the exact diagnosis. Now, to get down to that diagnosis, what kind of users are causing this problem, or what needs to be fixed? So I need to slice and dice this to see where exactly does the problem lie. Is it a certain type of persona that I'm not able to hook up and get ensure that they're on the platform and they're paying continuously? Is there a problem with certain type of users because I don't have enough features for them? Is it a problem with my power users? Is it a problem with my loyal users? Is it a problem with the casual users who just come, let's say, 3 times a month? Now, these people are just not paying up, right? Or is it a problem with users who consume a certain type of content, right? Let's say if I'm Netflix and I could actually make a case. Let's say I'm looking after global content retention. I might want to make a cohort, people who are watching, let's say, Indian vernacular languages content more heavily, predominantly they're watching that. Is there a problem with their retention, or is there a problem with the Hindi audience in India, or is there a problem with the English watchers in India? Just to simplify things, you can go multiple layers below to uncover where exactly the problem lies. And more often than not, from my experience, there are usually few culprits. When you have divided this into meaningful cohorts, you will actually see some cohorts standing out, doing either very well or doing very poorly compared to the typical median. And that is where you will realize there's a problem. Now, what you will do is you will reach out to them, conduct some thoughtful surveys, build a hypothesis, conduct thoughtful surveys, get their scores, try to understand why they don't like something, why they're not paying. Try to shift your focus to those specific segments and solve for their problems. Then comes the problem discovery and solution part, right? So this will help you understand what is the problem and what to solve for and what to
Correct.
be happy about.
Correct. Correct. Yes, Utkarsh. So, Utkarsh, now we have understood why is it important to retain your users, right? And how do you even measure the retention rate of the users? And how do you break it in segments and you focus on one particular segment which is not working well, right? So
Mhm.
now Could you share some instances or examples with us from the products that you have worked on? What were some of the strategies that were very helpful to you in bringing the engagement of the users to the products?
Okay, okay. Let me just add one small thing. Let me just show people about how do the engagement tables and curves look like. So here's a
Okay.
snapshot from Google Analytics. In GA4, I'm assuming most of the people would have migrated to Google Analytics 4. So if you're using GA, there are standard ways to measure retention. What this table shows is from October 2 to October 7, you acquired 6,400 users, and how many of them are still with you, still came to you at least once in a week, in that particular week, right? If I convert this into a ratio, let's say 6,400 is 100%, week 4 retention will be 83 divided by 64%. That's barely not even 5%, right?
Correct.
So yeah, that is how we can build these graphs to understand where's the problem. Let me show you this. I hope you can see this. This is an
Yes.
Excel calculation here, right? So I whatever we get in Google Analytics, Amplitude, or any of your analytics tools, either you can pull that data out in an Excel, or you can just ask one of your analysts to pull out the dump from your BigQuery and put it in an Excel. Just look at the count of users if you want to measure engagement retention. So whenever they came first, look at so 0 to 6 could be a week, month, day, depending on uh, what is the granularity at which you want to measure retention. Let's assume this is an app downloads data, and you want to see how many people are still with you after having downloaded the app. So that on day zero, the app download is 100%, right? That means whosoever you acquired, they would have visited you at least once. That's why the download happened. On day one, it's for 1/1/2020, day one is 82. And by day six, only 40% of users are repeating themselves, right? And similarly, if you go down and measure for different dates, you can create a similar curve. And then you can look at the column one, right? Which measures day one retention. And you can actually see the day one retention kind of went down from 82 to 78%, and then it kind of improved slightly, right? And so the idea here is to actually see if a particular cohort, a retention cohort, whether it's a day one, day two, day three, the one that you see in the columns, are these ratios being maintained or are they improving? If there's a deterioration, you can take actions on those things, right? So that's the idea to derive actionables. And then once you realize there's a problem, you can split it by cohorts, by the segments we just showed you in the previous slide, to ascertain where exactly the problem lies, right? Another thing that you would have seen is you can look at day 4, 5, 6. The number is kind of stagnating around 40%,
Correct. Correct.
right? In both the first two cohorts. In later on also, you can see 40 is easily coming there.
Correct.
That brings us to another concept that if you have good product market fit, at some point of time, your retention curve, which is from 100% to let's say 40%, right? This retention curve will eventually flatten out. It will not go down below a certain percentage if you have a product market fit. And this equilibrium percentage that you see on the right side, right, which is here it is 40. This percentage tends to vary on an average by different industries because it is a function of the nature of the product. In gaming, this could be much lower because people's use case of getting excited and getting involved in the games gets over by a certain period of time. So retention tends to fall much more steeply there. But even then, gaming products that have good product market fit will eventually have this engagement curve stabilizing around a certain percentage. It will not go down further. Let me show you another example. There is here we have tried to create, let's say, can you see the blue line, the blue
Yeah.
curve, right?
Correct.
This is engagement retention. You acquired the user on day zero, 100% of those were visible. And then there's a steep drop in their engagement repeat rates of that cohort. over the 30-day window, right? And if you can see, this curve tends to stabilize only around 4 or 5%, right? Now,
Right.
what we could do is we could look at other cuts also. We could look at other cohorts. Now we realize there's a problem. We could start looking at other cohorts. So let's say it's a music app that is dependent on community created playlists, more like a Spotify, right? So we can create different cohorts. You can see the one in green. This has much better retention. Look at the day one retention. Just compare it. For on an average, for most users, it's about 50%. Here it is 80%. And the cohort on which is red colored has close to 85%. And you can clearly see if you are lifting the curve in the initial days, during 1, 2, 3, 4, the initial period of time when the users just joined, right? It kind of lifts the retention curves on the whole itself, right? So this is an
Yes.
important takeaway. What does this mean? If you onboard the user effectively and get them activated on an important sticky habit, I'll repeat. If you onboard the user, right, help them understand how the promise that you had painted earlier in your ads, how does the product meet it? Help them understand the important use case of the product at the time joining, and get them activated on a few basic sticky habits. Then your initial retention will improve, and that will lift the entire retention curve, right? So this is one important takeaway. You asked about insight. So this is one important insight. The second that you see, all curves are pretty much not being able to stabilize. Ideally, if you're talking about a content tab, at least 30 to 40% retention should have been there. But all curves are literally going down to zero, right? By day 30. Most users are churning by day 30. I hope you can see this
Yeah, yeah.
in all three. This indicates that this product that we're talking about lacks product market fit. That fundamentally, what value you have committed, the kind of users you have brought to your platform, which the vast majority of them don't see that value. And after a point, they're churning. So this is an example of a product that lacks product market fit. In spite of having high retention cohorts initially, eventually all of them are not coming back by day 30. Similarly, if you look at this product in a month-on-month basis, let's say you have the luxury of having a past 1 or 2 year record, you should see these curves on a monthly basis. How many users came at least X number of times in a month to use the core features or use cases of the product? You can define the users that way, and then try to see how does this 100% does any of these curves stabilize after a certain number of months, or they are going down to zero after a certain period of time. If they're going down to zero even in a monthly chart, it clearly explains that there is a product market fit problem. And the fundamental thing that you need to solve is not build additional features, but rather rethink what is the positioning, what does this product solve for, and for which audience, right? Maybe it's a fantastic product, but you've picked the wrong audience or you've positioned it wrongly, right? So product market fit means both. The audience, is this the right audience for my product? B, realign the product's use cases to meet the needs of the desired audience. So you'll have to rejuggle, rethink that equation first instead of jumping it into any growth tactic or any additional feature development. You have to go back to the drawing board. That's a bigger idea and bigger takeaway that comes out from this, right?
Correct. So, Utkarsh, now that we have realized that our product is not well fitted to the market, or the user retention rate have been going down, so could you throw more light on what should we do to understand whether we should be launching more capabilities, or whether we should be going to the new market itself with the current product? How do we decide
Yeah,
out of these two options?
got it. Got it. Okay. So, right. So now, if the problem lies in your product market fit, right, that means you don't have a subsection of an audience that is really invested in your product and wants it to succeed. You don't have that. That means you have to go back to the drawing board. And there are a couple of things that you could do. If you are a larger organization with a new product that you've set up, you would be having extensive data instrumentation for it, right? So for those organizations, I would recommend starting with some data points to see what are some, what are two, three different cohorts where the retention was initially high, but it then scaled down to zero. Pick those users for customer calling. The other thing you should do is pick users who had bad retention from day one. Identify those users and run surveys and calls for them. For other organizations that probably don't have the luxury of data, let's say you're a new startup, right? You don't have the luxury of data. What you could do is you can launch a simple survey to your entire audience space. I'm assuming it will be relatively small, right? And you're still you're a pre-PMF startup. So you probably don't have the data. So you simply run a survey for all of your users. And what you could do in that survey is there's one fundamental question that you need to ask. How would you feel if you could no longer use our membership, our product, whatever that whatever brand or product that you, however you call it, right? Just ask users, how would you feel? Why do we use the word feel? Why don't we use the word rate? Because when you feel, you're asking a deeper question, right? That is an amalgamation of all your recent interactions that you've had with the product, right? Eventually, decision people, when they decide to spend the money, typically they first align with their feeling that this is for me, I want this. First, that feeling is created for most users, and then they tend to rationalize it with some data points that you throw, right? It's really the other way when people first look at the rational and then connect emotionally. So the emotional connection happens first, right? And if that is so, even if you're making small mistakes, even if you have limited features, because people believe in you and feel the right way for you, they will stick around for you, right? So it's important to ask the word feel. So these are the only three options you should have: highly disappointed, somewhat disappointed, not at all disappointed. And then, along with this option, you should ask few more additional questions for further analysis and segmentation. One is understand their work profile, understand their persona and demographics better, right? Understand what specific things they wanted to explore when they signed up. What was the specific promise that resonated with them when they went forward to download your app and get started with your product, right? Ask them these questions and ask them what was the primary benefit you have gained and what is the top grievances, or what is it that you've loved the most about the product, right? Give them two, three open-ended spaces also, right? Most of this needs to be a very objective question where you have options, a couple of open-ended questions. What is it you've loved about the product, and what is it that has troubled you or you're most disappointed about? So these two questions are also important. The third thing is, please just send this survey only to people who have utilized your product in the last 15, 20 days. There's no point sending to someone who used your product during the last 6 months only and has not used it recently. We want to capture the most latest sentiment, and we want people to have a clear picture of what the product is. Beyond a point, people would forget what is it about, right? So this is the survey. Now, if you want, I can help you understand how you can slice and dice. How can you slice and dice the results from this survey to arrive at your strategy?
Sure, sure. Utkarsh, that would be really helpful. Can you please walk us through that as well?
Okay, great. And please let me know if I'm falling short on time.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's fine. We still have 10 minutes left.
Right, right. So if you're a startup, the rule of thumb is, and this is not what I am saying. This is said by many industry experts based out of Silicon Valley, that in whatever number of responses that you get, if the share of not disappointed is uh, the share of highly disappointed is more than 40%, then you definitely have product market fit. The share of highly disappointed, if that exceeds 40%, you have product market fit. If it is under 40%, then you'll need to work on it. Now, if you realize that the share of highly disappointed is more than 40%, you have product market fit, yet you have some other form of challenge you're facing with your growth, you can certainly look at other things in your data. Then there's the product and the users generally not the problem. You need to focus more on optimizing whatever your activities you're doing. And generally, you're likely to see exponential growth if that's the case. You must be doing something fundamentally wrong, not wrong in terms of the product or the audience that you've designed it for, right? And most likely, people who are who will be filing this, checking this product market fit, will fall in the latter, wherein their share of highly disappointed will come under 40% in most cases, right? That is why we'd be looking at this. So if it is less than 40%, that means either people are not giving a damn about what this product was, they got accidentally excited about your messaging, they came and they realized it's not at all what was promised. Or some users may be somewhat disappointed. That means there is an element of partial fitment that they see with the product. They see it somehow solves a problem, but they're disappointed about there are some irritants in your product that are pushing them away and forcing them to say somewhat disappointed and not selecting highly disappointed, right? So let me show you this. So let's say in a hypothetical case, this is a split that you get 30%, which is under 40. It's a pre-PMF product, right? Now, what you should do is you should do two things. See, now in order to get a PMF of more than 40% over the next few months, you can do two things. Focus on these two buckets, the highly disappointed and the somewhat disappointed. Right? This is the most practical thing you can do. Why you should not be worried about not disappointed? Because these people are so far off in terms of alignment with your product that winning them will require fundamental changes in your proposition, right? And whatever you have built. So that may be a long term bet, unless you're planning to build something new from scratch. Don't be worried about not disappointed. It's difficult to win them over here, right? And it's actually valuable to let these people churn if they are belonging to the not disappointed bucket. Okay, so what you can do now is increase the share of highly disappointed and solve first the problems that have been faced by a somewhat disappointed bucket and convert them into a highly disappointed bucket later on, right? Now, as you would see in the previous slide, we, along with knowing what is your preference in terms of disappointment, we'd also captured a lot of demographic information. We'd also understood what is a key use case you had signed up for, right? And believe me, in all the surveys that I have run personally in my past, I've got 70 to 80% response rates. If you send it out with honesty, you keep the form short, and you write a personalized subject line. Let's say, hey, hi Utkarsh, can we talk? Hi Charu, can we please talk? Write a personalized subject line like that, and you'll get very strong response rates, right? So let's say you get all these additional data points. What you could do is first pick this bucket of highly disappointed and understand what is the unique characteristics about them. For instance, it may be something like this. Let's say it could be a bunch of aspiring entrepreneurs with 10 years of work experience. They have limited time and they're only consuming your app while they're sitting in a cab on a mobile device whenever they get some time. They're not sitting in a dedicated moment to read something on laptop, right? And let's say they signed up for a very specific benefit. They wanted to network with investors and founders, and they wanted to view a short podcasts and videos, right? And they have some clear problem areas that they would want to solve. Now, if you understand, this is the core area that has struck a strong chord with your audience. This is a thing that works for you. You have to make these kind of things mission critical, right? You have to realign your agenda to focus on your power users and get them more of these things. Build your roadmap around this. The second thing you could do, so this is 50% of where you should put your effort. So this what this will ensure over a period of time your product will be known for this thing, not just with the highly disappointed bucket, but in general you'll have a reputation for this. And there's right now you have evidence to believe this is tracking chord with the audience, right? The second thing quickly I will talk about is, let's say even the somewhat disappointed bucket, you discover their personality, right? And you discover their preferences. Now what you should do is divide this somewhat disappointed bucket into two halves. Identify people who are more similar in their demographics, in their tastes with the highly disappointed bucket. Try to identify that segment, right? By comparing the demographic data and their preferences data. And for these users, make a genuine attempt to convert them into the highly disappointed bucket. Understand what are the irritants that are or the issues that they are facing that is preventing them from really enjoying the app and get the same kind of approval rating as being given by the highly disappointed bucket. Once you solve for that, the PMF score will improve. And this is the easiest and the short way to improve your PMF scores, right? The rest, please don't be worried about it. For the rest, try to focus, let them churn, and try to acquire in future, try to acquire users that are more like these, right? Or where you can commit to promises that you've committed to your highly disappointed buckets. Commit those promises and try to acquire the right fit audience, because when you have right fit audience, your baseline retention rates will be pretty high, right? Your cost of acquisitions will be significantly low, and it will be easier to upsell and cross sell, because people fundamentally believe this is relevant for me and I cannot live without it, right? And this gradually over a period of time, as you amass the right kind of audiences, it becomes your moat, right? Your high stickiness will become your moat. So figure out your opportunities and irritants by running this survey and continuously monitor this. Don't let this be a one time activity. So that's the broader idea I wanted to share around product market fit. And this is a typical product literature method that you will find. I've just tried to summarize it in this manner with an example.
Yes, Utkarsh, these have been some really great insights. When I'm hearing out from you, I have realized that I have learned all of these things in my marketing class during my MBA. But at that time, probably I was not able to relate it well. But now when I'm hearing out from you, I can really understand how is it playing in the industry, how is it actually playing in the application role. So this is like bridging the theory and the application. So now that I can really understand what value is it creating, how do you even plan your service, how do you, what kind of questions do you have to ask your users when you plan your service. So it's really great learning from you, Utkarsh.
Great, great. Another thing I want to just mention, since we're talking about product market fit, is product market fit is not a done and dusted thing. Yes, it does matter a lot more when we have not reached the growth stage, because before you pump money into growth initiatives, you have to get this sorted. But please remember that product market fit is also an evolving thing. You have to keep checking if my fitment rate is improving, is it stable or is it declining? Because as you scale up, you acquire audiences that are not exactly similar to your early adopters. Eventually you will get into the early majority, later majority. Even eventually, if you've scaled out of the market, then you will probably acquire laggards as well, right? And these audiences will be fundamentally different from the initial base that you had acquired. So in order to ensure that these people also derive value from the product, you have to kind of evolve your understanding of your proposition and how it appeals to different types of personas, right? Initially, you're more focused on the early adopters, but eventually you have to balance your roadmap so that it appeals to your early adopters as well and to the mainstream market also. So that's the dichotomy any product head will have to deal with over a period of time, right? And
Yeah.
another benefit of using this technique is it helps clarify. A lot of times I've seen many people just going by whatever feedback that comes to them, right? You may have a customer support team which kind of churns out certain feedback to you, but please don't get overexcited about certain things just because the volume of feedback is high for that. Let's say there's a feature request that's coming from many users in customer support, and there's one valuable feedback that you've got in a detailed customer call with a high fit user. Please don't measure things by numbers only. Also look at where does this user lie in the bucket? Is it a highly disappointed user? Is this feedback coming from a not at all disappointed bucket? Right? Because it may happen that that one feedback from a high fit user may help you propel the alignment of your product in the right direction. And maybe all of the feedback that you're getting from your support tickets or from other channels, right, open-ended feedback that you're getting, mean all of that may not be worth actioning upon. It may not improve your PNF at all. It is possible. So also look at these other aspects around who is giving this feedback. Is it a high fit user or low fit user?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, Utkarsh, since we have reached to the closing of this session, I would like to continue these insights in the next Industry Connect as well. But just a last question from you, if any piece of advice that you would want to give to our mentees who have joined this session and who are learning from you.
Yeah, I think my most important piece of advice that will serve you really well is think from first principles. Don't be, don't run after templates, frameworks, formulas. Those are good for making a presentation and help an executive understand what you're trying to say. But in a day to day, most likely a good practitioner will be inventing their own frameworks for their customized need, right? So you don't have to memorize them. Take it with a pinch of salt. A lot of them will not be intuitive right now, right? Eventually, you will invent your own one. So, but what will serve you well is asking fundamental questions. Why this and why not that? What else? What are the other factors that we could think of, right? Uh, so that curiosity, asking questions, and it's okay to look stupid initially. That's perfectly fine. Do your homework, ask good questions, and get a deeper understanding. And maybe you may come up with a far better framework than most consulting firms ever did. It is entirely possible. It all depends on your depth and intuition that you've built around the whatever problem space that you're picking. You can be better than that. It is possible. So just go with that open mind and don't run blindly after frameworks. Eventually, frameworks won't help. What will help is your intuition about the problem. You will be able to figure out a variety of factors if you have the required depth in understanding.
Okay, thanks a lot, Utkarsh, for having this session with us. It was a great learning from you today, and I'm really hopeful that the audience have got a really good insights from you. Please stay connected with us for the other upcoming sessions as well. And thanks a lot again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charu. You've been a great host. Thank you so much for your time, and it is my pleasure to be with all of you on with all of you today and answer all your questions. And happy to help further wherever needed.
Thanks, Utkarsh. We will close this session.